unusual year. No one is unbeatable. Very unusual year. No one is unbeatable.
Damn straight. My name is Josh Weil. I'm a high school math teacher and the Progressive Democrat running for U.S. Senate against Marco Rubio. A majority of Floridians are on record as supporting Medicare for all, a $15 minimum wage, voter reenfranchisement, universal broadband, and legalization of marijuana. They're progressives and they don't even know it. The 2022 elections are going to come down to one simple thing: voter education. And who better than a teacher?
Welcome to the Progressive Talk Zone. I'm Jill Strail, and today we talk to Josh Weil of Florida, Progressive Democrat, who plans to retire Marco Rubio. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Jill. Thanks for having me.
How are you? It's good to
Great.
see you. I'm so glad to hear that you're going to go up against Rubio. I think I can speak for all of us here in earshot that we would love to see that happen. How do you plan to, what's your first step to do that?
Well,
What did you sort of have in mind for Mr. Rubio?
Well, we're running a grassroots campaign here. So, the first step, which has really been all year, is about getting out across the state and meeting with voters and organizers and the people who make things happen. And by the people who make things happen, I don't mean like the big state party officials and, the corporate donors. I mean the people who actually show up to vote. The people in Florida who have had Marco Rubio as their U.S. Senator for the last 11 years and have watched him do absolutely nothing for them or for their state. And these are the people that we have to get out to, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, NPAs, independents, whatever the case may be. There's a tremendous amount of dislike from Marco Rubio. He has this... It's interesting because he has this air of invulnerability about him in Florida, which is due entirely to the Florida Democratic Party. It's due entirely to our state party because they tell people that he can't be beaten. We're not spending resources on him. He has a stranglehold on the Spanish speaking demographic. Like, they say these things. And the only evidence to support it is that he won huge in 2010 and in 2016. When they didn't challenge him because of those things. Like, if the Democrats aren't challenging the Republicans, then the Republicans are going to win big. That's what's going to happen. But we've seen when Rubio when Rubio gets challenged, we've seen a whole different story. I mean, the one time he was in a contested race was in the 2016 presidential election, and it didn't go the way he thought it would. He didn't look invulnerable. He didn't even win Florida.
That's amazing, isn't it? Is it fair to say that maybe the Democratic Party is doing like an end run on anybody when candidates come to be a part of this and to suit up and show up, that the party has already decided who they want to run and are not even waiting for people to speak their piece or actually run their agenda or anything?
Absolutely. That's been it's a big part of the problem in a number of states. We just saw it happen in Virginia. We just saw them say, no, Terry McAuliffe's going to win. It's not even going to be close. No, Terry McAuliffe's the candidate, and marching him through to the point that anyone else, there was no support. There was no platform. There was no avenue for people to really get out, for candidates to get out and challenge McAuliffe, because the state Democratic Party in Virginia had said, no, he's our guy. He's super popular. He's going to win. There's no evidence to that. The only evidence to support it was that he had previously been elected statewide as the Virginia governor, and that Biden had won the state by 11 points. But then we saw there was no support
amazing.
for McAuliffe or his policies.
Like the guys that run the Democratic Party, at least down there, but maybe it's a national kind of thing, that the rest of you guys get up there to run within the party as window dressing. If they've already decided, if the party's already decided who they're going to back and throw their support to. Now that just seems wrong, doesn't it?
We have some absolute window dressing right now in Florida, in my race in particular. And so there are a number of people that are registered to file. There's about 5 or 6 people that are running in earnest right now to be the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in 2022. The money leader, the big corporate candidate, the one that the state party and the national party has chosen is Congresswoman from Orlando here, Val Demings. The state Democratic Party, while by the bylaws of the Democratic Party nationwide, are not allowed to, as long as there's more than one Democrat running until the primary is voted, they're not allowed to back, endorse, or support any one candidate. And yet they continue to roll out the red carpet for all of their major fund donors. They are going behind the scenes to all of the caucuses and all of the county DECs for all of the fundraisers and galas and Christmas parties and events. And they are ensuring that in any of the larger counties or anywhere that there's people or advertised that people are putting up money or going out to, that Val Demings must be the speaker. They're not even guaranteeing they send her out. Some of them she's going to video it in, or they're going to send a video, but she is your keynote speaker. She is the one to be celebrated, and no other candidates are allowed to be invited or attend. They have one other candidate that they will roll out sometimes. They have this city councilman from Miami named Ken Russell, who was a big Hillary. He was running a lot of the Hillary stuff in South Florida during 2016 and the South Florida or in the Tampa area. But he ran a local Hillary campaign office in 2016 in Florida. He's a city councilman. His campaign's entirely funded by local realtors and developers, which is like your equivalent of big corporations and lobbyists for a city councilman in terms of who you're taking money from. And they roll him out to essentially lob softballs and make mistakes against Val in debates. Right? They bring him out to be as a counterpoint speaker to look bad so she looks good. And that is he is their window dressing. And he's playing ball because they're putting his name and picture all around and guaranteeing him that he can run for something else in the future, raising his profile for him.
Well, that just sounds like dirty pool to me. That just doesn't sound right at all. And I don't know how they can get away with it, but
that's exactly
they seem to be getting
what
away
our
with
big
it.
party politics. That's exactly what our big party politics are. But if there's one thing that the Democratic Party is good at, it's losing. And so, we're not going to be scared off by the fact that the big party is putting all of their money and resources, because no one knows how to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory like the Democratic Party does. And we've seen it happen here in Florida. In 2018, they did this exact same thing in our gubernatorial race for Gwen Graham, trying to shrug everyone off and get everyone else out of the way and put all the money and weight behind that she was going to be the nominee. And we had a fantastic progressive nominee in Andrew Gillum, who was the mayor of Tallahassee at the time. And he stayed with it, and he went around the state, and he met with people, and he did it the right way. And when he got those big national endorsements from, the Bernie groups, from Our Revolution, from Courage to Change, from all of the Justice Democrats and Warren Dems, when he got the national attention and the big endorsements, the money came late, and he was able to make a push. And he beat Gwen Graham, and he beat the state system. And we know it's possible, because the crazy thing is they know it's possible, and they refuse to change. They're not doing anything different.
Yeah, but if it works for them, that's the whole thing. Obviously it works for them.
But it didn't work the last time. It doesn't work. You can't say that anything works for the Democratic Party in Florida when the Democratic Party of Florida has had a voter advantage for the last 20 years in the state. It's starting to narrow and get close. And a lot of that is due to voter disenfranchisement and the Republican governor and Republican cabinet constantly purging our voter rolls here and taking people off of voter rolls. But they have had a significant voter advantage for 2 decades and have not won a single contested race for Senate or governor in that time. The only statewide races they have won have been the Bill Nelson U.S. Senate races, that they did not contest when the Republican Party was conserving resources and not putting money behind a candidate to really challenge him. As soon as a candidate like Rick Scott came along and was willing to finance himself so that way the Republican Party could continue to conserve their resources for the big gubernatorial race and for a potential Marco Rubio challenger, the Dems lost again. They lost with the incumbency, with the gift of a multi-term incumbent in Bill Nelson.
Well, what I see is that you are having to fight on two fronts. You have to fight your own party, not with just within your party, but your own party in order to get up to the plate to fight the other side. And that just seems like a terrible waste of energy and very, very disingenuous on the Democratic Party side, the people who actually run things.
It is and it isn't. I try not to think of it as a waste of energy. But it's the way that we can make change here in this state. Because first thing I have to do is I have to beat the establishment Democratic Party. Because the establishment Democratic Party doesn't work. They continue to fail. Despite voter advantages, despite more registered Democrats than Republicans in this state, they continue to lose statewide. So we have to beat that. Because we can't let that go up against Rubio. That will lose. So for the sake of the entire state, we've got to beat that first. And then it's a short period because we have late primaries. Our primary is August 23rd of 2022. But once we've beaten that and have the Democratic nomination, then we can set our sights on Marco Rubio. And the great thing is about doing a grassroots like this and actually doing it right. Building a campaign around the people. We've traveled all across the state. We've been to more than 50 counties at this point, meeting with voters and organizers. We've been everywhere from Pensacola to Miami. We're out, we're talking to people, whatever they are. We are not targeting. This isn't your typical Democratic Party van-targeted campaign where we only knock on doors of known Democrats or people who are donors or people who voted in, 4 of the last 5 elections or the last 3 primaries or whatever. Like, we're not targeting like that. We're going broad and we're talking to everyone, everywhere. And the difference that makes.
Well, if Val Demings.
The difference that makes is that when we win the primary, we have a very, very short general election period from August 23rd to November 8th. But we have already the same foundation. We are not laying a foundation to only target Democrats, to only target people who are primary voters. We are going to everyone, because then we will have also already laid that foundation for the general, and we are putting it in there before the Republicans start coming after us. We are setting the tone and defining our own narrative for who I am, what it means to be a progressive, and what the needs of the people in the state of Florida are. Our entire platform is based around conversations we've had with people in Florida going across the state. It is built on what is necessary to meet the needs of the people. We haven't had a Democratic governor in this state since 1998. We've had 23 straight years of Republican neglect coming out of the governor's mansion. There is need everywhere in this state, and the people know it. And we're getting out there with the message before, right? Like, look, let all the Fox News things go after Val. Let them tear her to bits and do their thing. They're not focusing on us. So we can get out there and talk to them. We can talk to the people and define our own narrative and let them make their own minds up about who I am before the negative, vicious, conservative media cycle turns on us. We can lay that foundation ahead of time, and we will get Republicans and MPAs and independents voting for us in the general election. We know that progressive. You guys opened with my ad, all right, with our digital ad that we had published earlier this year, right? It's the same one that's on. It's on the Act Blue site. It's on our YouTube page. What we say in there is true. Progressive policies are popular in Florida. They poll highly regardless of party. And what we've seen with a state legislature that is just locked down 65+%, more than 2/3 of Republicans due to gerrymandering and voter suppression.
No one is unbeatable.
We know that Republican legislators do not support progressive policies. The Republican legislators in the state unanimously shot down things like legalization of marijuana, things like an increased minimum wage, voter reenfranchisement. But when we bypassed them, when we got ballot initiatives passed, and we were able to put it directly on the state ballot for the people of Florida to vote on as constitutional amendments, we saw 60, 65, 70+% of voters across party lines support these initiatives. They want progressive policies. They want more than the state government is giving them. And that's our talking point. To go out and say otherwise, to try to convince them that no, our Democrat isn't a socialist, or say, yes, all the things that the Fox News is telling you are bad, but we're not that, then what are you? If the Republicans are accusing you of trying to help people and you're going to try to say, no, we're not that, then what are you? What are you doing for them?
Exactly.
So we're out there talking to them and we're helping them understand what it is. We're having real conversations with voters, regardless of their background, and we're helping to clear up the confusion, get rid of the fog, and break apart the lies that they've been told. And that's
just really
from my
important.
mind, that's the only way you win. That's the only way you beat the Republican machine in 2022. You can't do it by
who would
giving
you say,
power
Val?
to all the name calling and backpedaling every time that they try to, paint you to be something you're not.
Exactly. Well, who would you say Val Deming's demographic? Who is she going to be attracting? Would it be the older voters, or how is she going to split this thing up, where she will take away from who would be voting for you?
Val Demings definitely is going to have, she's going to have a base among moderates. Val Demings is a very moderate candidate. She politically, even just recently, a couple weeks ago, she broke from, along with a number of our Florida congressional delegation, she broke from party lines and voted with the Republicans to help block a bill that would ban,
Good Lord,
police departments from having and using grenade launchers. Which, I mean, they're not, our police and municipal police departments are not dealing with, we're not dealing with insurgent armies from other nations creeping in on the shores. Our police departments only respond to threats from American citizens, which means if you give them grenade launchers, the only people our municipal police departments are going to use those grenade launchers on are American citizens. And so to vote against the safety of the people, like, it's incredibly tone deaf, and it shows, breaking to vote with Republicans is showing how moderate she is. Her main appeal is going to come from moderates, particularly moderate blacks, older moderate blacks, but really from your moderate liberal white middle class Democrats. She is very much a safe candidate that supports the status quo, that supports what is good for the white upper middle class, without threatening them, but can make them feel good because it feels like they're supporting a minority, even though they're not supporting anything that helps to support minorities, even though there are no policies in there that helps to deal with our affordable housing crisis, that helps to deal with the income inequality, that helps to deal with the threats to minorities in the community, that helps to deal with our criminal justice problems, that helps to deal with any of our economic instability that are seen by, your non-white upper middle class Americans. There is nothing in there, nothing in her platform to actually help these people. It's very much what you would expect from someone who was a chief of police, right? Our police departments in America, particularly the larger ones, are there to, as we've seen over years, are there to protect the peace and property of the upper middle class. And that's what she stands for, and that's what they're going to get from her. The majority of black voters, though, and the majority of minority voters, whether we're talking about black, brown, immigrant, LGBTQ, groups that are disenfranchised generally from our system tend to be more progressive, and they do not support a candidate like this. So there are a number of groups and a number of segments of our population here in Florida that are eager for something else, that want to change. And when we go out and meet them, because we're not running big ads on, on cable news, are happy to see that there are real people who want to actually serve them and want to help support the progressive agenda, that want to make things like Medicare for all and the Green New Deal a real possibility in the U.S. Senate.
Josh.
Johnny.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I think she may be on the lag. Very interesting conversation. When we talk about you've got to beat Val Demings first. One of the things in the past election, the Joe Biden presidency, the older black vote is what really pushed him over the top.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at your race, and I look at the young progressive movement in America, I feel like that you can resonate with those folks without any problems. My question to you is, how do we make inroads, Mr. Josh, with the older community who are, like you guys were talking about, have been traditionally moderate corporate establishment voters in the past? How do we turn that around, sir?
There's a couple big things. The first thing is that you have to actually talk to them. We have to go out there and talk. And this has been, throughout Florida, this has been one of the, I would say, one of the bigger impacts. So even sometimes when we go out and we don't have a great event, we go to a really red place, or, we're dealing with some disgust, there's always good conversations. There's always learning. We're always making a good presence. But we were in Bradford County a couple months ago. We were doing some knocking on doors with the local Democrats there in Stark, Florida. So this is a small town, very segregated, very much historically like a, railroad tracks running through the middle and, white people on one side, everyone else on the other. And we had gone to some new housing developments that had just opened up some new construction that had just finished up and people had moved in within the last 6 months. So we were knocking on doors of just broad, and we were helping get people registered to vote if they weren't already registered and talking to them. And you could tell as soon as people opened the door and we started talking to them, we could tell if they were Republican or Democrat. You don't got to ask, especially in a town like Stark. But what was great was that even the Republicans were like, "You're running for U.S. Senate." They're like, "And you're here? Like, you came to Stark?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir. Came to talk to you. You're just as important as people in Miami, as people in Tampa, as people in Orlando. Your vote counts the same." Right?
Yeah.
And even Republicans, you come into the door in MAGA hats and they're like, "Can I have one of your cards?" Like, they'd ask politely, like, "Can I have one of your, like, can we?"
Right.
They're like, "Thank you for like, I can't believe you came here. Thank you so much." And they'll tell me, they'll be like, Rubio doesn't know where Stark is. He's never been here before. He's been our senator 11 years. He doesn't know how to find our town. Right? So it means something to them that you actually go out and talk to them. The Republicans take these areas for granted. They take for granted that they're going to win them, and they don't show up, and they don't represent the people.
No, they don't.
The Democrats abandon them. The Democrats say Republicans are going to win. We're going to conserve our resources and focus them somewhere else. They never see statewide candidates. They never have people come out to talk to them or listen to them. Just being present in these places is our first inroad, because the big candidates who, they have too many corporate interests they need to stay on the phone for, or go to their big, fundraising dinners with, banks and realtors and whatever, like lobbyists. We're not doing that. We're going out and we're putting the time in with the people. And that makes a difference.
Yes,
Well, you're doing more like what Bernie was doing. You're doing exactly the kind of thing he was doing, pressing a flesh, getting
We're
to know
doing
everybody
honest
and being
grassroots.
able to, right, exactly. That's just so great. I mean, I don't know how people like Rubio can continue doing his phoning it in routine, like what was the blue algae debacle where he introduced the bill late in the day, so didn't have time to do anything with it. What was that about? Is that sort of indicative of his style? Yeah.
Well, we have a number of public health crises here in Florida that receive little to no attention. And the reason why is because we have 2 Republican senators in Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, and we have a Republican governor in Ron DeSantis, and none of them want to help. They don't ever actually want to help people. It's just not part of their plan. In some ways, I would say even for DeSantis really tries to bury these things, because having to help people shows that there are people who need help in his state, and he's trying to create an entire illusion that that's not the case. So, we have a huge blue-green algae crisis in the Gulf. We have red tide on the Atlantic side, and we have blue-green algae on the Gulf side. The Gulf crisis of blue-green algae is the result of some very controversial and unethical means that were used to clean up the BP oil spill back in 2010, 2011. So the way that was eventually cleaned up, where there were these biochemical agents that were put in to devour the oil and take it up, and they had a huge effect just on the ecosystem. And over time, we've seen increases in blue-green algae that has a toxic cyanobacteria inside of it that can aerosolize. And over the last 4 to 5 years, what we've seen is all up and down the Gulf Coast, and within the first 5 miles from the beach in the Gulf, is that we've seen pockets of ALS actually developing. So we have a huge crisis of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease.
Good Lord.
That is being found in the autopsies of people, and on the autopsy as well, the presence of that toxic cyanobacteria from the blue-green algae. So we've just gotten enough data over time that it's all been correlated in the last 18 months. So it's a
neurodegenerative is what it's causing.
Yes. Yes. And so, yes. And the increased hurricane seasons are only making it worse as well. So because of the climate change and the increased hurricanes, last year we saw our biggest hurricane season ever. We had, I think it was 38 hurricanes. We went way past Z. We were into all the the Greek letter names and all the once you go past 26 for the alphabet, all the backup things for naming extras, which I lived in Florida most of my life, and I don't ever remember us getting past Z before. And so all of those extra winds and hurricanes and things, the majority of them come up through the Gulf. They tend to either die there or they get funneled into Louisiana. But what happens is all those extra winds kick up the blue-green algae, aerosolize it, and then we see it floating in. And, there's been towns where just they had massive, these crazy things where all the pets just started dying and falling over dead. It's a huge crisis. It's a public health crisis. Now, in order to get FEMA aid, it comes one of 2 ways. You have your governor request FEMA aid, or you have your senators go out and request it on the Senate floor. Well, we have all Republicans elected into these positions. The closest we got was Marco Rubio, who earlier this year in January, at the beginning of the session, at the beginning of this year's congressional session, it was a Thursday, I believe at around 11:38, 11:42. I'm trying to remember the exact time, but it was basically right before they ended and concluded for the night. And he stood up and he read it into, he wrote a really great bill, or had an intern write a really great bill, requesting aid and, what the people in Florida need based on this blue-green algae crisis. And he read it into record.
Right.
Didn't call for a discussion, no comment, nothing, just read it in. It had one supporter, which was Rick Scott, who's basically like the roommate signing his name on the card before, He turned it in, and that was it. Like, maybe it would go to committee. No one coming into, no co-signers or supporters on the bill ahead of time, no political work, and you have a number of other states affected by this. The Gulf of Mexico affects Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama,
exactly.
and Florida. Historically, whenever we've had anything like the BP oil crisis, like major hurricanes, those 5 governors, those 10 senators work together to make things happen. Nothing. Reads it into record. That's it. It dies. But you know what? Now when he's asked about it, he can say, what does he go around saying? I did it. I tried introducing legislation. You can go look it up. Look it up. Go onto the Senate website and look it up. I introduced legislature, but Charles Schumer and the do-nothing Democrats didn't want to do anything. No, the Democrats had no say in it. There was nothing about the Democrats. It never made it anywhere because of the way he did it. He did it to be able to say he did it. And we know that he knows the difference. One, because he's not stupid, right?
Sure.
Marco Rubio knows what he's doing. No one thinks he's stupid. He's a very intelligent man. Watch him. Follow him on Twitter.
Well, that makes it even worse.
Follow him on Twitter when he's getting into a football game and breaking down plays. Like, he gets all like Tony Romo in it. Dude loves football and actually has a really good, I'd say probably the only thing I enjoy or appreciate about Mark Rubio. I'm looking forward to when we retire him and he becomes a Fox Sports commentator doing football games. That'll be the perfect job for him. He's a smart guy, so he knows what he's doing. Also, he is the GOP leans on him constantly to introduce their legislation and to make sure that things have the support they need, and that he's going on and he's doing the media circuit in English and in language and raising support and getting people to call their senators and he puts the public pressure on to make sure legislation gets passed. He's been doing that. Never for the people of Florida, though. Never when we need it. Only when he's called on by Mitch McConnell and the GOP for their national policies, for their national platform. That's it.
That must just be so frustrating. And he's actually hurting the people he's supposed to be helping.
Because we have no one else. If he doesn't do it, who is? Rick Scott?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have another option. We don't have anyone at that state level. Our commissioner of agriculture has been going over the governor's head and reaching out and working with Joe Biden and the Biden administration on a number of things to bypass our governor's efforts to block aid and assistance, federal aid and assistance from coming into the state. Like, we have people that are having to step out of their lane to get there because the people who are supposed to do the job to serve Floridians refuse to.
You have to wonder how these people got where they are and how they stayed there.
Well, they've in the state of Florida, a lot of it has happened because the GOP here is very, very well run and organized. I'll go back to those conversations I was having with voters in Stark, Florida, right? Every time we knocked on a door and a Republican answered, right, they told us that they changed their registration the day they moved. They had already been contacted. They knew. They updated their voter registration for their new address the day they closed on their house, the day they were moving.
And what did the Democrats do?
They were so happy we were there because they completely forgot about re-registering and they were glad that we were able to be there and, we had the forms for them. The Republican Party is very good at what they do. They're not winning by accident, right? On the other hand, the Democratic Party is very bad at what
they're very organized.
Very disorganized, right? And a lot of it goes back to even 2010 when Rubio first won. Marco Rubio, as the termed out Speaker of the House here in Florida, was running against the fairly popular incumbent GOP governor, Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist was a member of the Republican Party at the time and was our incumbent governor, decided to not seek re-election in his governor's race and to seek the open Senate seat that had been vacated by Mel Martinez when he stepped down and retired before completing his first term.
Josh, I have a question.
Sure.
Well, actually, where Where can people find? Where can people go to donate to Josh Will?
That's a very good question. So the first thing you can do, the easy thing is you can go to joshweil.org, which is our website, joshweil.org. That's our website that has has information about me. It has our policy information. It also has information about our upcoming fundraiser event, which is going to be on January 19th. This is our Get on the Ballot virtual fundraiser, Wednesday, January 19th at 8 p.m., where we're going to have 4 amazing speakers. And we're trying to raise the $15,000 that we need to ensure that we have a place on the ballot come August 23rd. All of this is on joshweil.org. There's also links there to donate. You can also just go to Act Blue. So we take all of our money in through Act Blue, which is the big national website that the majority of Democratic candidates across the country use. It's a phenomenal service that makes sure that they act as a merchant service provider for us, and they make sure that all of the information that we need when we accept donations, in order for the donations to be valid through the FEC, is taken and comes along with it. So it helps keep us from taking in any money without the appropriate information to document it and report it. So it's a fantastic service.
Yeah.
If you go into actblue.com and you search Josh Weil, we'll be there. You can also get a direct link to it from our website at joshweil.org. This is a grassroots campaign. We rely on the people to get us there. Some months we are truly just, we're living paycheck to paycheck,
Right.
running the campaign paycheck to paycheck, getting our donations in enough to pay our employees. We have 1 full-time and 2
Right.
part-timers right now helping us with directing field and then social media management and call time management, which is the person that helps keep my butt in the chair and on the phone, making phone calls to people across the state. Because every candidate needs someone to keep you in the chair, because you will tap out of that if you don't have someone to keep you honest on it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And yeah, we go paycheck to paycheck on it if we have to, just to keep this thing rolling, just to keep it moving forward, keep gas in the car, keep the people paid, and get from one month to the next. So this virtual fundraiser is an opportunity for us to try to take the money that we're going to need for the ballot, the money that is, more than possible based on what we earn, but allow us to be able to put that aside without affecting the income of our workers or upcoming events that we have planned, without having to diminish what we're doing to get out to people across the state.
Absolutely. And I want to jump in here real quickly, Miss Jill. Josh,
Yeah.
the House of Public Discourse. We've had our nose to the grindstone for 7 years now. We have a finger on the pulse, and I just want to give you some affirmation, sir, that you're very right-headed in your quest to expand the progressive electorate. Progressive policies are popular across the political spectrum, again, with all voters, Republican alike. And to not box yourself in is a very smart move. And we support you. And we just want you to know here in the House of Public Discourse that whatever we can do to help champion
Right.
your efforts, that we are at your disposal. We admire young progressive lions. You guys are the future, not us old farts. Now
Speak for yourself,
I
Johnny.
mean, the progressive movement, I think, Jill and I were talking on the phone earlier this week, and, the progressive movement, as much as, there's these amazing next generation young people running. I mean, this is a movement led by, the youngest of heart, Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders is the one who lit the match and inspired all of us and continues to do the work.
Exactly.
Where he walks so we could run. What we're able to even be in this conversation now is all because of him.
You absolutely right.
And we're working on getting progressives in every race here in Florida. I'm actually working behind the scenes with a number. We've got about 11, I think right now I'd have to check the numbers, U.S. House candidates from so we have 27 districts. There's going to be 28 once our districting is done, but we can't have 28 candidates because we don't even know where the 28th district's going to fall yet. We're not going to have progressives in every race, unfortunately, but we're working on it. And we've reached out and we've gotten agreements with a number of them in varying House races where we're going to be putting together a statewide progressive ticket with a website to make it easier for people who want to support progressive candidates and help get that name and word out and share it with people to see where all the progressives are across the state, and to get some common literature to help really build the support for that and show that, like, look, right now, because our congressional delegation is primarily moderates and, we have Republicans the rest of the way here in Florida. Right now, we don't have anyone that is a guaranteed yes on Medicare for all coming out of the state of Florida in the Senate or the House, right? But we will have candidates for U.S. Senate and at least 14 of the 28. We're working on 28 out of the 28, but we're going to have candidates out there where if you believe in Medicare for all, if you believe that healthcare is a human right and access should be unimpeded and freely available for every American, right, that you can support them across the state and we can completely turn this around. We can have yes votes everywhere for that legislation from the state of Florida. We can become the leader in that. So, we're getting together where we're getting the progressives organized, and we're going to have a big ticket that is launching. We're having our meetings to kind of organize the logistics and formatting of it now, but we'll be getting that out in early January or February of next year for the people.
I have a question for you. From what we've heard from you today, since the Democrats seem to be part of the problem, the party does, in the way they are doing their business, do you ever see progressives being a separate party, a third party? Because if they're not helping us, but they're hurting us, what do we need them for? Why?
So I've had a lot of people
we
ask
could
me
call
that.
ourselves something different. I don't know.
I've had a lot of people ask me that. I've done some events and met with supporters.
I just want to know what your
members,
opinion is.
Members of the People's Party. I think that it can work in some places. I'm not convinced that it can work
But
right
not
now
all.
in Florida. Not unless we see the Republican Party completely fracture as well. Right now, when we're in a state that where the numbers of Republican voters and Democratic voters are getting closer than ever, we still have a Democratic advantage, but it's a slight advantage. We cannot break 50%.
It's just
right. Like, we're not winning now with one Democratic Party. If we split it among two candidates, we'd be guaranteeing Republican victories in every statewide election. That's the reason why I'm running as a Democrat. I have to beat them one at a time. I can't beat them at the same time. I can't beat them both on November 8th.
Right.
I have to beat the moderate Dems on August 23rd. I have to beat the Republicans on November 8th. Take them out one at a time. That is possible. And to me, I think that's
it sounds
what
like a great plan.
But we also need to keep, because the progressives are getting tired. They're getting tired of getting blamed for everything. They're getting tired of watching moderates hold out on passing legislation and then blaming the progressives for trying to stand their ground and not conceding on the policies that will actually help the American people. Right? They're tired of getting dragged in the media and getting blamed for every failure by the party that refuses to embrace them, when they're fighting for the policies and the platforms that are actually popular. Some, not Medicaid expansion, prescription drugs. Government negotiation of prescription drug prices was polled earlier this year at 83% favorable by Democrats. 83%. And yet they continue to frame it as a fringe issue that only progressive support, that only a small minority support, and continue because they take money from insurance companies, they take money from pharmaceutical companies. And they do not want to see those prices go down, because if those prices go down, the profit margins go down. And if the profit margins go down, then the amount of money, why are they donating? They're donating to keep those profit margins up, to take more money from the people who need the drugs and give it to corporate executives and CEOs. Right? So they're complicit. The Democratic Party is complicit in this, and progressives are getting tired of it. And I've spoken with a number of progressive voters where I'm begging them sometimes, please don't change your registration. Don't change it. If you drop out and stop being a Democrat, you cannot vote in the primary. We have closed primaries in this state. And the reason for that it's what's enabled and empowered our parties to think that they can set the platform for the people. They can tell the people what the issues will be that they can vote on, and they will tell them who their candidates are going to be, which is completely backwards from what a primary system is. Primary system is supposed to be that the candidates get to run and the people choose based on the platform, the issues, and the personalities, not that the large party comes out and says, this is who you're going to get.
Right.
That's what's pushing progressives away and alienating them, and we need them to stay in. We need them to stay in so they can vote for someone else. Otherwise, it's going to be Demings versus Rubio. Otherwise, it's going to be Demings versus Rubio, and we're going to have two candidates who try to frame each other as being wild extremes, wildly different from each other, but when push comes to shove, would vote exactly the same on most every issue.
Spot on, sir.
Exactly.
That is the history and the narrative that we have been following in our House of Public Discourse Advocacy from day one. And it's very simple. You know, when you're taking money from the same paymasters, what's the end result? What we're seeing is the end result. You're absolutely right. 2010 was an absolute disaster for the Democratic Party. We're still feeling the pains and the side effects from that loss. The reason we got gerrymandering and these safe zones across states like yours, Mr. Josh, is because of that big loss in the midterms in 2010. Yeah. And it's going to take young lions like you, and why we're so excited about being a part of what you're doing there in the state of Florida. This is not Swiss cheese that you're taking on here. No. This is you've got a hard, let's be honest.
This is a big machine.
You've got a hard task ahead of you, young man. And you need all the help you can get from like-minded. I've often said one of the Achilles heels of the progressive movement is that we are free thinkers. We do, finding that consensus has been elusive. But like you guys touched on, Bernie Sanders was our consensus. He did create a consensus that we need Medicare for all, and all of those. I wrote an article, a very successful article I wrote back in 2015, that Bernie Sanders supporters are the political revolution, and it's more than just about Bernie. It's about, and Bernie, what was Bernie's campaign slogan? Not me, us. And it's
not me, us.
And it's people just like you, Josh, that give me and Jill and us older folks hope that we can turn the direction of this country around. And we appreciate you so much, sir, for doing what you're doing, because I'm not, this is my show. I can speak on it. It takes some big kahunas to jump into the ring, sir, like you're doing.
Thank you.
It does come out swinging. Absolutely.
It is, but it's the only way that we're going to get the change here, because the people want it. The people want more than this. And yeah, Bernie, I'd say the one thing kind of in my mind that Bernie did for us was he helped us remember that it's possible to get more than what they're giving us, right? That there is so much more that we could even be asking for or put on the table. To me, when we first started hearing the talks of Medicare for all, I'm 37 years old. I was born in 1984. So Medicare for all sounded like a pipe dream for me, like the type of thing that's never going to happen in this country. And then I did some research and I started reading about it. And I found out that Medicare for all was on the Senate floor with the votes in 1979. In 1979, under the Carter administration, when Democrats had a supermajority in the Senate, it was on the floor and had the votes. And Ted Kennedy, who was planning on running against primary in Carter in 80, talked enough Democrats out of it, saying that, don't back it now, we'll table it. He was going to run on health care. That was his main platform for primary in Carter. He was going to accuse Carter of not getting the health care bill done, running on health care, and then they'd pass it in 81 when he won. Unfortunately, what happened is, you know, 2 helicopters on a rescue mission crashed into each other in a sandstorm. Carter never recovered. Reagan won, and we haven't been halfway as close to getting Medicare for all passed in the last 42 years.
Absolutely, Josh. I was a 21-year-old, had just gotten married, all out on my own. My ex-wife was in medical school. I was having to spray bugs to pay the bills. You know, I was working for Terminex, and Reagan got in office. And that's when I really became conscious and became politically motivated, because from Reagan to where we're at right now, I mean, the history's got 2020 hindsight. We know.
It's a straight line. All the patterns that we see today in terms of increased government spending, in terms of reduced tax rates for the wealthy and for corporations, everything that we've seen has been a straight line increasing since 1980. Regardless of whether we've had a Democrat or Republican in the White House, regardless of who's controlled the Senate or the House, it has been a straight line since Reagan took over in 80. Completely changed the direction of our government, our economy, and our national system of politics.
Yes, sir. And I have researched this and written much about it, why Americans fail to vote. You know, the largest voting bloc in America doesn't vote. And what I'm most excited about, Josh, with your campaign and others like you, is that I feel that there is a huge amount of those people that we can
Absolutely.
have disenfranchised themselves from the process because of the very things that you're mentioning here in this interview. People have gotten, you know, it's all rigged. It doesn't matter.
It's important.
Damn right it is, Miss
But
Jill.
it's so important that you guys it's so important that you guys talk about this, and I don't think that most people are aware of how much you have to fight. I have to go back to this, you know, fight your own party just to get heard if they've already decided you know, who they are going to get behind, and it all comes unfortunately, it all comes down to money. You've got to be able to raise it in order to advance your candidacy. And if they've already decided, it's just like, how many sides do you have to fight? It just seems you really have to be very brave to jump in.
Money's great. I'm not gonna lie, money's great. I love getting donations. I'm you know, checking our reports daily. I get just as excited though when we have a $5 donation from someone come in as when it's $100.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, I love
that's
every
how Bernie
time
built his.
And I love when we get new people, when I see that a new person has chosen to take some money out and that they're going to support our campaign. It's fantastic, you know, and we see it every week. We're adding new donors, we're adding new supporters. But I'm not out here trying to, you know, you're not going to see articles about how, you know, I raised $8 million in, you know, less than 6 weeks, because that doesn't come from the people. All of our money, we do not accept corporate contributions. We don't accept money from any sort of PACs that are not progressive or supporting our platform or disagree with our platform and policy. We are not taking any sort of money that is going to be a conflict of interest or that could potentially, you know, change our allegiances. We are here, this campaign and myself running to be your U.S. Senator is about working for the people. The money and the support has to come from the people. It doesn't have to be millions and millions of dollars. We're not trying to break fundraising records. We need just enough money to keep the bus going, just enough money to keep it going out. I don't care if we lose the fundraising battle. We're going to win the voting battle. We're going to win the battle for the hearts and minds of the people.
There you go. And that is the breath of
fresh air. If we could just work and not letting the voters get disenfranchised or kicked off the rolls if they haven't voted in 2 years, something like
We're working on it.
Now that is a huge uphill battle, a huge battle.
And it's
just
happening
they take
in
it
a
away
number
if
of
they
states.
see there are too many.
It's happening in Texas, all these Gulf states. It's happening, all the ones that I just named, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, as well as Florida here, right? We're seeing governors, Republican governors in these states taking these measures because they don't want to see a Stacey Abrams. They don't want to see Democrats who look what happens.
Yeah, but there are too many of us.
Democrats
There are too many of us.
actually go
Yeah,
to the people and
they want to take
organize
them all out.
and work. Yes, but we
Mhm.
need federal legislation to prevent this. We cannot make this a states' rights issue. We cannot say that districting and managing elections and voter registration, you know,
So if you
because
get
it
in the
wasn't
Senate, you can
specific,
make that happen.
because it wasn't specifically given, you know,
You
we
can
have
work
to
to make
fight
that
that
happen.
clause. Because it wasn't, the states'
Mhm.
rights argument is that because it wasn't specifically granted to the federal government in the Constitution, that it was reserved for the states. But we have to change that. We have to have these classified as human
Yeah.
rights issues. If we say that voting is a human right, then constitutionally we can preserve it at the federal level. If we say that clean water is a human right, if we say that healthcare is a human right, then constitutionally we can fight to preserve it and prevent states from disenfranchising, restricting, and harming people, from taking away, from alienating them of that human right. And that's the argument we have to make. And we can't, sometimes you can't put the fire out from inside the house, right? These states have the power. They're not going to give it up freely. They're not going to take the power away from themselves. We've got to go over their heads, and we have to have comprehensive federal legislation that changes this to ensure that people can freely vote in every one of these states. Because we've seen it. When Alabama stepped too far and they put up a pedophile. Like, there was no argument against the fact that he was a pedophile for U.S. Senate. It took everything. It took everything. But when we got the people out there, there were enough people.
Mhm.
When you get them to the polls, the people will choose the Democrat. And they chose Doug Jones over Roy Moore. We've seen it. When you make sure people are registered to vote and they get out there, when you pay people to do the work, you don't rely on them. You don't expect the communities to come out and do your job for you for free. But when you actually support the communities and you're out there every day with them, like John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock were, the people show up and vote, and they win in a state like Georgia. It happens over and over again, and these states are doing everything they can to keep it from happening.
Absolutely, Mr. Josh. That's been our research here in the House of Public Discourse. So there's been an attack on the Voting Rights and Civil Rights Act since, it's been going on for a right good while now, and it's really on steroids since when Trump got in office.
Yeah.
It just went on steroids, and you guys, we have been at this for an hour, and we can talk for another hour if you like. But Josh, once again, you're running for the Senate seat of Florida. You're running against Val Demings, a corporate establishment Democrat. We got to beat her first.
Got to beat Val first. Got to win the primary. Primary is August 23rd, 2022, right? And we need your support, right? We need you writing into those large organizations. We need you on social media highlighting at Wheel for U.S. Senate, WEIL, the number 4 U.S. Senate on Facebook and Twitter, at Josh Weil for Senate, JOSHWEILFOR Senate on Instagram and TikTok. We need you highlighting, promoting, pushing the message.
And we will, sir.
And we will
upload all of those links to our website, sir, for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we will distribute that throughout our House of Public Discourse network, our growing network. And we're just a small voice right now, but we're a loud one. And I think that's how we are going to collectively, as a progressive family, change the direction of this country. Just like you said, one grassroots campaign at a time, one voter at a time.
Get them in every race.
And
we have progressives in every race, man. It's echo.
And I want to tell you,
that's it.
Like you and me out here.
I want to tell you, I'm not coming from a position of know-it-all. I'm coming from a position that's of an organization that has its nose to the grindstone every single day. You're on the right track, Josh. You've got the right mindset. There is, you can collect Republican voters, independent voters, people who haven't voted in 10 years. People, I will like to offer you some encouragement. I am noticing people are starting to wake up to what this
They are, and
duopoly.
they want to know what their options are. Their options, and now they're waking up. We can't wait until they're all woke. We got to
No,
do it right now, right now, right now.
absolutely, Miss Jill, and it is guys like you that are giving us hope for our future. And I'll tell you, I want to reiterate this, that the House of Public Discourse supports Josh Weil for the
Yes.
seat of Florida.
Thank you, sir.
And you got to
Thank you so much, Josh.
That means a lot. Thank you, sir.
Yep, you got us.
Well, you've been listening to an interview with Josh Will. He's running for the Senate seat of the state of Florida. I would like to add the most all-important state of Florida. Actually,
Yes.
it's gonna be a state that a huge spotlight is going to be on in 2022 and 2024. There's even some rumors that your state's governor may run for president. I don't know.
God help us all.
God help us all. But
Really?
Josh, speaking for Jill, I'm sure I want to thank you for coming on the House of Public Discourse radio network in the Progressive Talk Zone with Jill and Johnny. It is an extreme honor to have such a young lion like you who's fighting for our country. You give us hope,
Thank
sir.
you.
You give us hope.
A pleasure.
And God
Thank
bless you,
you.
man.
Have a great rest of your weekend.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.